Yo, what's up, hoop heads from around the globe, and welcome to another episode of Buzzer Beaters. I'm Eddie Aparicio. This is my co-host, Anthony Toine Corral, and tonight we're going to go ahead and talk about the NBA playoffs. And we're also going to go ahead
Sure.
and segue into our, typically we have two different segments, but we're going to combine them this week only because Warriors talk. The Warriors season's over, but some news just announced, with Steve Kerr re-signing. So we're going to have a talk about that as well as who they should draft. So we're going to have two segments combined into one. We normally do it in separate podcasts, but we're going to combine it into one today. So I just want to go ahead and let you know that. So, all right, bro. So let's get into it, man. So the let's go into the before, because we've been gone for 2 weeks, right? We had life got in the way, of course, the last couple of weeks. So we weren't here the last 2 weeks because things have just happened, right? So we wanted to go ahead and talk about some of the series that led up to this. Briefly, we don't have to spend too much time on these, but we saw that the Lakers got swept by the Thunder. We also saw that the Sixers got swept by the Knicks. Dude, was this expected? I mean, the Sixers, definitely pulled off an upset, in beating the Celtics, and we thought, oh man, this is with Embiid and Paul George and Tyrese Maxey, the Knicks. Are they the same? Or are they going to be the team that's going to falter, or are they going to win? So I want to get your take on that game. Plus, I also kind of want to get your take on the Thunder and the Lakers, if these are expected outcomes and what you saw from these that led to the next series.
Yeah. So first question first, was the Lakers getting swept by the Thunder a surprise? No, it wasn't a surprise to me.
I agree.
Simply for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't know how good the Houston Rockets are. And the more I look at them, the worse they are. So I'm thinking that the Lakers beating the Rockets was not really a very stringent test. They had Reeves come back. Luka was still out for that series. Marcus Smart played well in that series. LeBron was kind of rejuvenated in that series. So I thought that was a good series. But when they came in to play the Thunder, I mean, the Thunders are on a different level. And no, it didn't surprise me. I thought maybe they'd get the gentleman's sweep. I thought maybe that's where it would go. But no, it didn't surprise me that the Thunder swept the Lakers.
So let me ask you something. Do you think if Luka had played, that the Lakers would have gotten maybe 1 or 2 games? Or do you think it was a foregone conclusion? It was going to be a sweep no matter what, no matter who they put out there?
No, Luka's a big time player. I think they might have won 1 or 2 games with Luka in there. They're still not as young, athletic. Their defense isn't as good. That's really where the Thunder kind of separate themselves from the Lakers, is just defense. As a defensive squad, they can put the clamps on them. They can do a bunch of things, and they can score when needed. Williams didn't play that whole series. He was out the whole series.
Jalen Williams.
Yeah, Jalen Williams. They didn't even look like they needed him. So, no, I think if Luka played, they win 1, possibly 2, but it still would have been, 4-2 series.
But I got to tell you, though, I got to commend the Lakers for having a way better season than we all anticipated.
I agree.
JJ Redick has got that team playing well, and they play well together as a good cohesive unit. Their defense is way better than I expected. The reemergence of DeAndre Ayton. I mean, he's not a world beater. He's just, he became, a decent player again. And then you got the emergence, of course, we all knew about Austin Reeves. If you missed our most underrated the undrafted Mount Rushmore. We have Austin Reeves up there. So if you missed that, we have a clip as well as a short on that, so you can go ahead and tune in on that. But Austin Reeves was featured in that short. But Austin Reeves, he came back from his injury. He, kind of was forcing his hand a little bit, but he actually started getting his legs under him. And LeBron, he showed up too. For being 41 years old, you got to give it to the guy, man. He's played well, man. I mean, the Lakers impressed me because they were way better than I expected. And I hate the Lakers, but I got to give them some props, man. I got to give it to them. So,
no, I agree. We've talked about this in previous episodes, but JJ Redick, I didn't think was a good hire. Ultimately, I think I was wrong. I think he's a very good hire.
Yeah.
He's really pushed that team. He's kind of put his stamp on that team a little bit. Rui Hashimura had some good games when they were playing the Rockets. Marcus Smart was playing really well.
He played really well.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, you're right. Hachimura was like, he's also like a revelation to me. I mean, I didn't expect
Correct.
him to be that good of a player coming out of Gonzaga because he was kind of more of a power forward type. He turned himself to a pretty decent small forward. So I
Yeah,
agree with you, bro.
yeah,
He's done
yes.
pretty well.
Yeah, Rui's really played well. He has his ups and downs,
Yeah.
with Austin Reeves, with LeBron James, and LeBron James kind of playing even behind Austin Reeves, kind of playing like the 1A, 1B type of star on the team,
Yeah.
not really the true number one. They played well. They just ran into a team that's much younger, much faster, much better defensively. And yeah, I think that they'll need to do some changes. DeAndre Ayton, we'll see what they do in the offseason with him. I believe Austin Reeves is due for a contract renewal,
Yep.
or there's something along those lines.
Yep.
So we'll see how that goes. LeBron's at the end of his contract, so we'll see where that goes. They're gonna have an interesting offseason, similar to a lot of teams in the NBA this year. But the Lakers are gonna have an interesting offseason. I suspect that LeBron returns. I don't know what they're going to do with Ayton. I don't know what they're going to do. They need some younger players and some better defensive players and some better shooting.
And they need Luka.
And they need Luka. Yeah.
Right.
And now kind of getting to Luka, the trade that shocked the world, but Luka's been hurt quite a bit. And this was the season where he was going to be in shape, and he lost all that weight, and his body was on the cover of this magazine and that magazine. He still managed to get hurt. That's part
Yep.
of the hazard of playing NBA. But
Yep.
this is now he's getting hurt regularly year after year, and so this is going beyond just luck or bad luck. It's starting to go into like, hey, is this just going to be an expected an expected result season after season where he's going to
Yeah.
be out some time due to an injury?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. But I gotta say, he had, definitely one of his best overall seasons. I think the weight loss definitely helped his game quite a bit. It definitely, I think initially, his stamina was a little different, because I think he was not used to it, and I think he wasn't able to move players as easily as he could because his
Yep.
bulk was gone, right? But he
Well,
adjusted. I think he did well. But yeah, you're right. He does get injured. He's still been getting injured regularly. Hopefully, this weight loss and this is not something that just, he's just been unfortunately blessed with a body that actually gets, injured. Hopefully that's not the case. That this is just an anomaly, but we shall see, man. But
yeah.
sorry, bro. Let's get into the next series because we got a lot to cover, man. So
Yep.
the Sixers and the Knicks, man. So the Sixers got swept by the Knicks, and the Knicks are playing their best ball right now, man. I mean, they're playing really well. We'll talk about the next series, but just want to get your take before we get to the next series. What you saw in the Knicks in the Sixers series that surprised you, if anything. Mike Brown definitely is coaching well, and
Yeah.
he's the voice back in the locker room, with the team. So, want to get your take on that?
Yeah, so the Sixers getting swept, this was a surprise to me.
I agree with
They
you.
played so well against Boston. Embiid was getting back in the flow. Things were seeming to happen. Maxi's a primetime player. He shows up. Edgecombe was playing pretty decent. They had Paul George here doing his thing. So I was actually surprised. But I don't know if this was so much the Sixers getting swept as much as the Knicks just starting to heat up. The Knicks are playing really well.
You're playing really
And
well.
if anyone's been watching this show for the last year and a half, 2 years, one of the things that I've been harping on was Thibodeau abusing his starters, and they're exhausted by the time the postseason comes.
Yes.
And I think that right now they're reaping the benefits of Mike Brown kind of having a larger rotation, kind of
Yes.
playing more players in that rotation. They seem more energetic. They seem like they got more oomph, and we'll talk about that in the next game because that presented itself yet again. And
Yes.
so I think that this was more about the Knicks just coming into their own at the right time. And they're surprising me. They're surprising me with how well they're playing. Typically in years past, they played this well, but it's somewhere like in the middle of the season or towards the end of the season. And then when postseason comes around, they kind of just fizzle out. And this time they're going in an upward direction right now, and we'll see
Yeah.
where that
Which
ends.
is good for the NBA. When the Knicks are
Absolutely.
good, it's good for the NBA. They have
Absolutely.
the world's most famous, stadium or
Yeah.
event,
The Mecca, the Mecca.
location with Madison Square Garden, and
Yeah.
of course, the New York. We all know about the New York media. They definitely like to hype up their team, right? But I got to tell you, Jalen Brunson is emerging, man. That guy is showing that he is someone to contend with year in, year out. And we'll get to it when we get to the next series. But I also was very surprised by the Knicks sweeping the Sixers. I thought the Sixers had the talent to make this go 7, but unfortunately, Paul George he disappeared, man. He did not
Yeah.
assert himself. He just kind of,
Yeah.
Paul George is not one of these assertive players, but but he needs to score more for that team to be winning more. And Joel
I
Embiid,
agree.
he played well, as good as he can. Given that he's still dealing with his issues with his health. And then, but Tyrese Maxey, he played really well too at times, but he was a little streaky in this series. It's just that I think Paul George, without Kelly Oubre, it would have probably been worse. I mean, they already got swept anyway, but Kelly Oubre played very well for that team. And but I just was really surprised by the Knicks, just like you said. So,
Yep.
All right, bro. So let's get into the next one. So let's go to the next series. So this is all leading up because we're catching up right now because we haven't been here for 2 weeks. We're just going to touch upon some of these series that led up to this series that's going on right now because we have the conference finals going on right now. And congrats tonight to the Thunder for making a 1-1. But we'll get to that when we get there. But anyway, I wanted to go ahead and get your take on the other series. Now, the Wolves took the Spurs to 6 games, and they actually when they won game 1, we're like, uh-oh. Okay, because I had the Spurs going all the way and winning it, and right now that looks pretty good right now. But the Anthony Edwards, showed out a lot in this series, but to me it shows that they need another player, in my opinion. What's his name? The guard from the Bulls, Ayo Dosunmu has emerged. I think he's emerged as a pretty decent player for them. I wouldn't say. He's not. He shouldn't be the second best player, but he emerged because of Dante DiVincenzo. Dante DiVincenzo, he ruptured his Achilles tendon.
Yeah.
So, they played a lot. They played pretty well and took the Spurs to 6 games. Any surprise in that development in taking the Spurs 6 games, or did you anticipate this going 6 or 7 games?
Well, yes and no. I'm not surprised they went to 6 because Edwards is a primetime player. He can take over a game. He can win a game or two just if he's hot. But I was surprised because I thought the Spurs were very much a better team than the Wolves, especially without DiVincenzo. I thought best case was 4-1, best case. And
best
the fact
case.
that they took, best case. I thought a sweep or 4-1. And the fact that they stretched it out is kudos to them. But I do agree with you. They need another star player. Julius Randle, if he doesn't get the ball, he disappears. Rudy Gobert, I think in that last game, I want to say they combined for like 3 points and 2 rebounds or something.
2 rebounds, yes.
Yeah, it was something god awful. Like the points I get, but the rebounds is really inexcusable. When you're big, you should stumble into 5 rebounds
in
each.
21 minutes, he only had 2 rebounds.
Yeah, that's not acceptable.
Yep.
And so that's been Julius Randle's kind of MO. If he's not involved, he kind of disappears. He's not disinterested, whatever you want to call it. And so that we saw that. So I think that maybe you need to see what you can get for him in the market. But yeah, Anthony Edwards does need another star player, even though he's claimed he doesn't. He says they can do it with the team that they have. I'm not buying in it. He not comparing him to Jordan, but he needs someone that's going to step up and help distribute the load. And right now he doesn't have that.
And the thing is, bro, is that I think Dante DiVincenzo getting hurt definitely affected this team. I mean, he's definitely a
absolutely
new guy. The thing is that what I saw in this series is Julius Randle disappears, man. That guy can't be disappearing on a team that needs another player to emerge. And thankfully, they got Naz Reid. In my opinion, I think Naz Reid should start over Julius Randle now. I think that's moving forward, especially taking what you take into consideration about maybe dealing Julius Randle to get something. Naz Reid played himself to be a starter, in my opinion, as the starting power forward along, Rudy Gobert, because he stretches the floor, he rebounds well, he blocks shots. He's a good overall player. And that's a guy that I know that the Warriors had been eyeing to try and get because you always beat up the Warriors, right? But I think Naz Reid should be the starting power forward. Rudy Gobert still stays as a starting center. Then you got Anthony Edwards, and they need another, shot maker, consistent shot maker. Dante DiVincenzo can do that, but I think they just need another shot maker to complement what Anthony Edwards does. So that's what I thought.
Eddie, your memory is always better than mine. The point guard that they traded San Antonio for, Dillingham,
Rob Dillingham.
Yeah, so I thought Dillingham might be able to sort of fit that role when he got there, but he's been invisible. No, he's not part of the rotation.
Well, no, Dillingham is now on the Bulls.
Oh, is he on the Bulls? Oh, that's right. They traded for
they traded him.
Sorry.
For Ayo Dosunmu.
Ayo Dosunmu, who has stepped up. who has
Exactly.
stepped up. I agree. But so yeah, so I'm with you. They need another player, someone that can create their own shot, someone that demands some sort of attention, double team occasionally or something, so they can spread the love between him and Edwards.
Yep.
But yeah,
Yep.
Julius Randle, I agree. Nas Reed has played well for the last 3 seasons. I mean, he's
Yes.
really earned everything that he's gotten. Julius Randle, my concern is if you don't trade him and put him on the bench, he's going to be worth even less. Because once he's on the bench, he's going to be more disinterested and disappear even more on a regular basis. So
Yeah.
I think if I'm Minnesota Wolves fan, I'm thinking let's trade. Let's see what we can get for Randle.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he played his way out of the rotation, in my opinion, in this last series. I mean, they if he had played well, this would have easily gone 7. And I was surprised enough that it would even win 6. So, but anyway, let's get to the next series, bro, because we got the current conference finals to cover. So the Pistons lost in 7 games to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The number 1 seeded Detroit Pistons got ousted at home and got blasted. Spider Mitchell, man, that dude showed up in droves, man. That dude just played out, man, and they blew them out. It wasn't even close. And I wanted to kind of get your take. What did you see? What are the takeaways from that series? In going 7 and the Detroit Pistons, the one that we both picked to be representing the East in the finals. We're both wrong on that, right? Actually, you picked them. I picked the Celtics. You picked the Pistons, but I had the Pistons, going against the Celtics here, and so did you, right? And unfortunately, they're out now. So now the Cavs are going to go against the Knicks. We'll talk about when we get there, but I want to get your take on what you saw in this takeaway when the Pistons lost in 7 today.
Yeah, so the Pistons had a hard time with the Orlando Magic. I chalked it up to it being a bad matchup. Orlando has a lot of large players. They take up a lot of space. I kind of chalked it up to that. And then when I saw them play the Cavs, Duren really, I think he's up for a contract renewal, and he really sort of wasn't there.
He wasn't. He did not play well in this series at all. That shows me that when he's up faced against size, because that's what the Cavs have. They have size. They have Evan Mobley. They have Jared Allen. Those guys are big, man. So and Jalen Duren is
they're big, but Duren is significantly heavier, and he should be able to move them around and find a position down low and score if you get aggressive and score. And he really didn't do any of that. So for me, the Cavs winning isn't a shocker, but Detroit just needs more scoring. They got Cunningham, and really that's it. I mean,
I agree. He's a player, though, man. Cunningham's a player.
Cunningham is, but Asur Thompson's great defensively, but can't score. Duren disappeared.
Duncan Robinson disappeared sometimes too.
Robinson's always been streaky. Even when he was with the Heat, he's always been streaky.
Yes.
So they need more scoring. They need to give up some defense to get some more scoring and provide some more balance on that team. So even though they were the number 1 seed, just watching them come out of Orlando, then losing game 6 at Cleveland, which I think was a good opportunity for them to close that out. And then Cleveland just stepping up, Mobley, Jared Allen had a really good game 6. He really stepped up game 6. So I think to me, the key takeaways are, what do you do with Duren? And you need more offense. Just flat out.
Are you saying, what are you going to do with Duren? Meaning deal him, or are you trying to maybe develop his game?
Well, what I'm going to do, so what I mean by what are we going to do with Duren is I think he's going to demand a max contract. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's where things get complicated. You're going to give him a percentage of your salary cap. And if he doesn't produce offensively in the postseason, you're taking away from someone else that you could be paying that is producing in the postseason. So to me, that's what I mean. What do you do? They're going to pay him, but they're going to tie up money on a guy that right now hasn't stepped up. And so
in the playoffs,
you got to figure that out. I don't necessarily think they should trade him, but I don't know what to do. Can you offer him less than the max and hopefully he'll stay, and maybe you can get another player?
Okay. I hear what you're talking about.
Yeah, because Cunningham's a max guy. Duren's going to be a max guy. So now you got, really, you can really on a team, you could have 2, if you want to go in the cap, 3 max guys, and then you're just filling everybody in.
Yes.
And Duren's not that guy that you can just build 3, have the 3 and then build around. I don't think Duren's that guy. That you can do that.
He definitely didn't show that in the postseason. He definitely showed he could be that in the regular season.
Correct.
But the postseasons where you see some of these guys emerge. The cream rises to the top, usually in the playoffs. And
Correct.
unfortunately, Jalen Duren didn't show that he has it yet. Now,
Yet.
could he?
That's
Maybe,
true.
but
Maybe.
yet we'll see. He's
Yet.
still a young guy,
Yep.
and he's definitely got a game that he can shoot. He's getting better from his outside shooting, although that's not his game. But nowadays, centers like you're seeing right now in the current series with the Chet Holmgrens and Victor Wembanyama, that's the game now. The guys have to be able to shoot threes, and he can't do that right now. Evan Mobley can do it. Jarrett Allen doesn't do it as he's kind of Jarrett Allen-ish is what Jalen Duren is, but he needs to be able to develop a more consistent shot.
No,
because
I
Cade
agree.
Cunningham
He
needs
has
help.
to work. Yeah, he has to work on his post game, and he's got to get the other bigs in foul trouble. He's got to force the issue, get more aggressive, and do that. And if he can do that, yes, I agree. The new generation center can shoot the three. He's not there yet. He may never be there, but he needs to take advantage. And he physically is bigger than a lot of the centers that he's going to be dealing with.
Yes. I agree with you, man. All right, man. So, hey, good points. Let's go on to the conference finals now. As we already aforementioned, the Thunder tied things up with the Spurs, but I got to tell you, man, how good was that game one? I got to tell you, the game ones for both of the conference finals were a treat for the audience. They both went to overtime, right? The Spurs Thunder game one went to double overtime, and then we saw Victor Wembanyama had just a stat line for the ages. The guy had 41 points, 24 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 3 blocks, and 3 turnovers. That's a total of 83.3 fantasy points, bro, from Victor Wembanyama. That was an unbelievable playoff game. And to me, when I was watching this game, I'm like going, oh my God, these two teams, they're kind of model images of each other a little bit.
They are.
They both have big guys that can shoot, are very versatile, that can guard outside as well. They also have very big defensive-minded wings. They're very, very defensive-minded, both of these teams. And they did this without De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox didn't play, nor did he play tonight. He didn't play tonight. So Stephon Castle took over duties as a starting point guard. And of course, he had a lot of turnovers in this first game. That's the one thing that the Spurs, that could be their detriment, is that they do turn the ball over. It's kind of something that the Warriors, that's always been their issue. And now the Spurs seem to have that issue themselves. They need to clean that up, or else they're not going to be as good as they can be, right? So, but De'Aaron Fox didn't play. Then Dylan Harper tonight, he got hurt, so they missed, and they took the Thunder, to the brink this game. It was all the way to the end. But I want to get your take on what you saw in that game one. What are the things that stood out to you, other than Wembanyama? I mean, Wembanyama was the star, right? But what are the things that stood out?
Obviously Wembanyama. I mean, that guy. I was having a conversation with my daughter's boyfriend. He was asking, what do you think about Wembanyama? And I told him, I said, if that dude, and we've had this conversation.
Yes.
If that dude doesn't get hurt, he's going to be the greatest basketball in the history of the NBA.
Absolutely.
And he looked at him and he goes, really? He goes, you're an old head. Like, that's what he calls me, an old head.
Right.
And he goes, I figured you'd be arguing for somebody else. And I go, no, man. I mean, the kid's just talented. I mean, that 3-pointer that he shot from the logo, that has fumes of Steph Curry. Then he's coming in and he's attacking. He has this wonky way of being able to shoot the ball. He looks all out of position and all bent around, and yet his hand can just come up and slowly put the ball in the hoop. And so he is, he's fascinating. And I hope he has a healthy career, because I want to watch every bit of him. Now, in terms of the other players, yes, Harper got his first start the last game because De'Aaron Fox was out. I thought he played pretty well. Stephon Castle has continued to play well. He's been aggressive. I've liked his game. He played today a little better than the last game, but but overall he's been very good. Interestingly enough, they haven't really played Harrison Barnes a whole lot. He played
tonight a little bit though.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like post, but he's kind of out of the rotation. I'm wondering, you might want a wing that can play defense, possibly score some threes, has a little bit of stability. You might want to put him in there a little bit. Champagne didn't really play too well today, but he had a pretty decent game last game. So those guys, I think, are solid. The young players that San Antonio has are
Devin Vassell too.
Yeah, Devin Vassell. Exactly. They're solid players. They just need some experience, and they're getting it. And the benefit of it is that right now they need experience, and they have a get out of jail free card in Wembanyama, because when in doubt, give it to Wemby, and Wemby can save the day more often than not. So it's just a matter to me of them learning on the job and seeing how aggressive they can. I think Stephon Castle's already there. I think Dylan Harper is getting close to already being there. Some of the other younger players, De'Aaron Fox has to come back. So, I mean, I'm feeling really positive for the Spurs in this series. I think that they have a good squad. They have a young squad. They can match the energy. You can argue that at some instances they're maybe better defensively than the Thunder.
At
So
times,
as a
yes.
squad altogether, they're a very solid team.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, the one thing that really stood out to me in this game is, after the game, the questions they were asking Wembanyama, because he felt he got slighted for being MVP. He was already Defensive Player of the Year,
Yes.
right? But then
Yes.
you could tell that he was trying to show out that he was the guy who deserved to be the MVP. And he was asked about, hey, do you feel? He didn't say that the guy who interviewed him didn't necessarily say, hey, did you feel slighted? But did you we play a little extra hard because Shea just got the MVP tonight and got announced? And then Victor Wembanyama was like, yeah, everything you said, yeah, everything you just said, and he said that. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
And the thing about Victor Wembanyama is that he wants to be one of the best players, if not
Yes.
the best player of all time. That's what's going to separate him, because he wants to. Jokic. We talked about Jokic. He's currently the best player, but with Wembanyama right there now. I mean, Wembanyama may have surpassed him. The only reason why Jokic is probably better than Wembanyama right now is because he's got 4 MVPs, for one, and the other one is that he's a supreme passer, unbelievable passer. But we've talked about it. We've had segments about. We've had a short about whether or not his desire to be great is really there, right? We know he has a desire to maybe raise his horses and race them and all this. That's his passion. But basketball's not his passion. Spurs, Wembanyama, this is his passion. He wants to win.
I agree.
He wants to be the best. That's what's going to separate him. And that's what, to me, that's what stood out, is that he has that drive. He wants to show people up because he deserved, in his mind, to be the MVP.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. When you look at the greatest, they always find reasons to feel slighted, reasons that people hate them. They find motivation tactics to make themselves, to push themselves harder. He's definitely doing that. He's not a fan of Chet Holmgren. I saw a whole special on that when they played in the Junior Olympics or the under 18 Olympics. They weren't friends, and so Wembanyama definitely has a little streak in him where he wants to show you up, be better than you, push. The thing about it is he does it in a non-arrogant way. He's humble about it, but you can tell that he's serious. He's motivated to do that. Yeah.
And then the last series against the Wolves, you saw that he did that elbow to freaking Nas Reed, right? I mean, he easily could have gotten ejected. He didn't get ejected. He did get fined, but he's that shows that, hey man, don't I'm not going to be pushed around. I might be slender, I might be Slim Shady here, but I can hold my own a little bit. And that was kind of he's got these flying elbows that can cause some damage. So people are going to start thinking twice about pushing him around because of what he did against Nas Reed, right? So, so I got to tell you, I'm very impressed with this kid, his maturity. The guy's only 22 years old. 22 years old. He's only 2 years older than my daughter, man. That's crazy. This guy has got maturity through the roof, and that's the thing about him, is that he really, really wants to be the best, and that's what separates him. So
I agree. So I'm just praying, because he is frail. There's a lot of big guys going at his legs and knees and things of that nature. And I hope that he has a long, healthy career. I really do.
I do
want
too,
to watch him
because
for years to come.
I agree, because he's a treasure to the game, and we haven't seen anybody like this kid ever. So now going into the series, now the one thing I can tell you that I've seen, so Alex Caruso in game 1 scored 31 points.
He had a hot night.
And he had a really good night. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, through the Spurs defense, held him to a very inefficient 7 for 23 shooting in game 1. Shai actually had a better game today. He was more efficient, but that just goes to show you don't ever see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander get 23 points and 24 shots. He's a very efficient scorer. I mean, but you could tell that the Spurs had a plan to try and shut down Shai. They're double teaming him, try and get somebody else to beat him. And Jalen Williams had a really, really good game in game 1. Unfortunately, he got injured in game 2. He's got a hamstring issue, and that's what kept him out, for all of this time. But the thing is, the Thunder have learned how to play without Jalen Williams. But Jalen Williams needs to be there, I think, in order for the Thunder to beat the Spurs in this series. Now, it remains to be seen whether or not they can win against the Spurs. They've only beaten the Spurs now twice this season out of 7 games. So the Spurs are 5-2 right now against the Thunder, and they've done it, of course, without Jalen Williams in both games. So we shall see.
Yep.
The other thing I wanted to point out is that the Thunder, they played 11 deep in the first game. I think they did the same thing again this tonight, and then the Spurs played 90. This is counterintuitive to a lot of coaches, where they tighten up the rotation usually in the playoffs with 7 to 8 players. These guys are playing 9 to 11 players, and that's very different than most coaches do. So in my opinion, I think we're going to see Mitch Johnson win Coach of the Year. I think he's going to be the Coach of the Year. If he doesn't, it's highway robbery. I think that he did a tremendous job this year. The Spurs got the Defensive Player of the He should have got the MVP, although Shea got it. They had Keldon Johnson as the 6th Man of the Year, and then I think Mitch Johnson's going to get Coach of the Year. And like I said, if he doesn't, it's going to be highway robbery.
No, I agree with you. He deserves it. One of the things that they did in game 2 here was Isaiah Hartenstein. He didn't play a lot of minutes in game 1. He played a lot of minutes.
He played a lot of minutes in this game. He made a difference too.
Yeah, and you can tell that the purpose of him was to bully Wembanyama, to get him off his game, to push it. What was interesting is, I don't know if you saw the interview after. They were interviewing SGA, and the reporter asked him, hey, we noticed that Isaiah played more minutes, and you guys were more physical with Wemby, and what do you think of that tactic? And what was interesting is he goes, yeah, I don't think that worked too well, is what he said.
Oh,
that's what SGA responded. And then she's all, what do you mean? And then you could see him thinking like he doesn't know how he wants to say what he wants to say, and he goes, no, it worked. Yeah, no, it was good. It was good. We had.
He probably caught himself going, I don't want to throw my own teammate under the bus.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But you can tell that there's something about either that tactic or something about the result. So now we'll see how game 3 is, because now Wemby's going to expect them to get physical with him. So how is he going to counter to that, and how is he going to go back? But that all being said, even with the change in tactic, it was a very close game till the end. Wemby didn't have a game like game 1, but game 1, I mean, you can't have that every night. But he's going to adapt. Hopefully, Fox will be back. So that's really the benefit that Fox creates here, is that they have to contain him from attacking the lane, right? Because he's just very aggressive towards the lane, and when he attacks, he can dish to Wemby, he can dish to the 3-point shooters, he can do a lot of things just because of his speed. So we'll see. Hopefully, he'll be back for game 3. That'll kind of change the tempo. And, even like I've said before, with the young players, they always play better at home. So I'm thinking all the young bucks will feel much more comfortable at home. I expect the Spurs to win game 3 easier than the first 2 games. I'll put it that way. Game 4 to me is going to be the one that's going to be a barn burner. That's the way that I'm looking at it. And if the Spurs can win game 3 and game 4, look out. But if they split it, then we're just back to possibly a 7-game series.
I agree with you. And but I got to tell you, seeing these two teams play shows that there's a large gap between them two and everybody else in the NBA.
I agree.
Whoever comes out of the East, and that's where we're going to segue into next. Whoever comes out of the East is going to be lucky, in my opinion, to win 1 game. That's my opinion. These 2 teams are mirror images of each other. They're unbelievable how deep they are too. And the thing is, and how defensive minded they are. They're very defensive minded, both of them, and they both have 7-foot+ guys that defend and shoot. So, like I said, they're mirror images of each other. But the difference is, Wembanyama is an elite player right now. Chet Holmgren is a really good player, but you saw in game 1 he disappeared. He disappeared. He had 8 points in game 1. And I think in this game, let's see, what kind of a game did he have this time? So he had 13 points this time. So he had 8 points and 13. I think for the Thunder to be beating, the Spurs in a series, I think Chet Holmgren needs to be the second best player on that team right now, especially with Jalen Williams being out. He needs to be scoring close to 20 points every night for the series in order for the Thunder to beat the Spurs.
I know. I agree. The interesting part about Chet Holmgren is when he plays Wemby, Chet Holmgren really relies on his height. He's a player that takes advantage of his height, and when he plays with Wemby, he doesn't have that height advantage. So I think it really kind of messes with his style of game. And so we'll see that's going to be an interesting matchup to watch, because Wemby affects him.
Yep, I agree
in a way that other players don't.
I agree with you. Let's see. We shall see what happens, man. So let's segue to the next series, the conference
Yes.
finals in the East between the
Yes.
Knicks and the Cavs. And that game was also really well played. I mean,
Yes.
both teams were throwing haymakers. I mean,
Yep.
there was a reference tonight, by Mike Tirico for the Thunder and the Spurs. Like, hey, if you guys haven't seen, if you guys are too young, go check out Hagler Hearns because this is
Yeah.
exactly what it's looking like. It's
I
Hagler
love it.
versus Hearns. And
I
and,
love
and
it.
dude, it's like the heavyweight, they're not heavyweights, but they were both middleweights. They were
Yeah.
just going at it for 3 rounds.
There
For
was
those
no
of you who haven't
defense in
seen it,
that game. It
check
was
that
all
out.
punch,
It's an
punch, punch.
unbelievable 3-round fight. It's probably the best
Yeah.
3 rounds you'll ever see in a boxing match. It's unbelievable. But that reference was made, in this series. But you could say the same thing happened in the East. The
Yeah.
East, those guys were doing the exact same thing. The
Yeah.
Cavs were dominating by like 20 points at one point, and then came back with the Knicks came back, went to overtime, and then the Knicks just outdid them. And the thing is my opinion, what we're seeing here is, the battle between the alpha males, between Jalen Brunson and Spider Mitchell. Donovan Spider Mitchell showed out in the last series. He showed out in this series as well, but Jalen Brunson outdid him in game one. We shall see what happens in game two, which is happening tomorrow. But this is a really good series. But unfortunately, like I said, whoever comes out of here is probably going to get beat by either one of those teams in 5 games, in my opinion.
I agree with me giving the slighter edge to the Cavs in the finals because they have two big players that could help
Yes.
offset the other team. But I will say this. Kudos to Mike Brown because right around the fourth quarter, he figured out, let's keep attacking James Harden. James Harden doesn't play defense. James Harden can be lazy on defense, and they kept going at him. If you watch those, final 8-9 minutes, they just kept going at James Harden. Whoever had James Harden, attack, attack, attack. And that's been obviously James Harden's MO. His defense is
Yes.
lackadaisical. He saves
Yes.
all his energy for the offensive end. So it's really going to be interesting how they go about in game two, because I thought that was a very good adjustment by Mike Brown. I mean, obviously and of course the fact that you're up 20 points with 7 or 8 minutes to go in the game and you end up losing the game. That's really
Yes.
gut wrenching, right, to a team. So we'll see how Cleveland responds to that. I suspect that Mitchell won't really get affected. I suspect that Harden might not get affected, but will Jared Allen be affected? Will Mobley be affected? Yeah. Will they be? I want to see how they react. But they're going to attack James Harden quite a bit. So it's going to be interesting if James Harden is on the court, if he's going to step up his defense, or if they're going to have to play somebody else just because from a defensive end, he's not keeping up.
Yeah, although I gotta say, James Harden's defense, in my opinion, has gotten better in the last couple of years because I think out of necessity, he's had to get better at it. He's gotten better at it for sure.
Yeah.
In my opinion, most recently is, but previously he was all offense, man. He didn't care anything about defense. Now, because he's not the same offensive player that he used to be, he has to be relying on something else to keep him on the court, and his defense has gotten better out of necessity, in my opinion. So I agree. I agree with you. We're going to see some of these tactics that these coaches are going to continue. To see if they take advantage of James Harden and see how they adjust. See how the Cavs adjust to this. Kenny Atkinson, former Warriors coach, former Brooklyn Nets coach. He did it. He's done well for this team. And last year they were the number 1 seed. This year they were surprisingly, a 3 seed, and they actually, they've gone farther now with being the 3 seed. But I just see this series again, the same thing, the same trend that I saw in the first series with the Thunder and the Spurs, that they're going deep, 8 and 9 deep on both sides. Interesting, 8 and 9 deep for both, right? The 7 to 8 is no longer seems to be the trend now in the playoffs. All these coaches seem to be playing 8 to 9, if not more, which is an interesting trend that you're seeing for all four of these.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, it makes sense. So many players take time off. So many players, don't play the full game.
Yeah.
The fact that you're spreading the energy in the playoffs, because the playoffs is very intense for a very short period of time. There's not a lot of time off. You get 1 day off, then you're back at it. You get 2 days off if you're switching cities. So that's all very standard. So the fact that you're expanding that rotation to kind of offset some of the lack of body accustomed, right? Their bodies aren't accustomed to playing like all the time for the most part. So it makes sense that they would expand the rotation to make up for some of that. But but these teams are deep, right? It's not only that they're expanding the rotation; they got good players, 9,
Yes.
10 deep. I mean, they got players that serve a purpose.
Yep. I agree, man. I agree. So what do you expect to see in this series? So I picked the Spurs to win in the first series. You have the Thunder. And by the way, our little contest, we're
Yes.
tied right now. Okay. In our little playoff bracket, we're
Okay.
both tied. And the difference is the West. If the
The West.
Spurs win, I win. If the Thunder win, you win. So it's all based on
I
that.
win.
And that's lunch, right? So
Okay.
lunch is all hinging on
Yeah.
that series. But in this side, we both had the Celtics coming out of this. But what do you expect to see in the East series? Who do you expect to win this series between the Cavs and the Knicks?
I expect the Knicks, but I do expect this to go 7. I think for the most part, the home team is going to win all their home games, and I think it's just going to be home, home, home. That's what I think. The Knicks. I think the Knicks are more capable of stealing one away from Cleveland, and if they do, it'll be in a 6 or 5 game series. But I don't think Cleveland's winning this next game. In New York, I think New York's going to win game 2, and then 3 and 4 is going to go to Cleveland.
Yep, I think you're right. This one's going to probably go 7, and I think the home team is going to pretty much win every game, and that's the Knicks are the higher seed, so therefore they're the ones who are going to emerge. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Cavs take them out, but I expect the Knicks to win as well. So,
like I said, I think the Cleveland winning is really Harden's going to play a huge role in whether they advance or not. I think we know what we're going to get out of Spider Mitchell. We know that Mobley, for the most part, is consistent. Jared Allen's a little up and down. James Harden has historically in the postseason, his shooting percentages have been very poor. His defense, you've said he's better, which I can't disagree with, but he's still not a great defensive player. He's still too upright to me. Every time I watch him, when I'm watching him, he's just too upright. He's not in a top defensive position. He does a lot of like reaching around. When somebody when somebody attacks him or goes by him, he's got to get better at that, and then Cleveland could win. But if he doesn't do that, and if Jared Allen doesn't be more consistent, they're going to have a hard time beating the Knicks.
I'm going to call right now that if the Cavs take out the Knicks, the reason why, the X factor, in my opinion, is going to be Dennis Schroeder. I think Dennis Schroeder is going to be the guy that emerges, in my opinion, to be able to upset the Knicks. The guy plays defense hard. He's a matchup timer. He's really fast. He's crafty. His shot is kind of streaky, but he plays defense really, really hard. And I got to give it to him. He's going to be a nuisance on Jalen Brunson. And of course, the Knicks have a version of that with, Grand Theft Alvarado, right? Jose Alvarado is kind of the same kind of player, kind of nasty, kind of gets in your face, kind of Patrick Beverly-ish kind of. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to come down to Schroeder if the Cavs win. And for the Knicks, I think they're just a better team overall. They have better wing depth. Whereas the Cavs are better, more front court depth than they have, and both teams have alpha point guard type players. That are going to be trying to push their team to win. But the difference is that the Knicks are more wing depth. They have more wing depth and better at the wings versus the Cavs, whereas the Cavs are better down low. So it's going to be interesting to see which mode works, which format works for the configuration of team, which one's going to win. So, all right, brother, that's it for our walk around the NBA playoffs. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we typically have 2 different podcasts. We have the Warriors Talk as a separate podcast, but we're going to go ahead and combine it this week. So this is going to be our last Warriors Talk segment until probably the draft. But these are the topics that I want to cover. So we just heard that Steve Kerr signed. And I wanted to get your take because we've talked about this ad nauseum, whether Steve Kerr was going to come back or not. We have shorts about this. I had the opinion that he wasn't going to come back. He did come back, and I don't know if you read that article. Did you read that article? That
I didn't read it all. I caught pieces of it here and there, but
dude, I read it. It took me an hour to read it. An hour to read that thing, man. It was, and I think I couldn't even finish the article because my phone wouldn't let me scroll any further. So I couldn't really finish it, but I got the gist of it. But he thought he wasn't going to play anymore. He thought he wasn't going to coach anymore. I think that Clippers series is what really put him over the top. His wife is the one who kind of said, hey, because he had been contemplating with his wife whether or not he should stay or go. And from that game, I think they all felt, the team, that, hey, we still got it. We can do it when we need to, right? Let's just go ahead and put our crap together and figure this thing out. And I think that was, and then I think they got a little overconfident from that game in Phoenix, and that's probably why they didn't win that series. But they were tired as well. They're older, But if they had their full squad, I think that kind of gave them the impression that they could still compete. If they have Seth Curry, they have a fighting chance. But that game seemed to be the tipping point for Kerr to come back. I want to get your take as to if this is a good thing or not for the Warriors, and what you saw playing out in this whole thing.
So, is it a good thing? It depends on one factor, and that is what your perspective is of Steve Kerr's responsibility for developing young talent. I'm one that believes that's not his responsibility. He's not the one that should be developing. The organization should be developing. He's a people person. His job is to build a team, build unity, build chemistry, obviously work on the offense, work on the defense. So I think it is a good thing he's coming back. I'm of the opinion that he's coming back with the intent to train someone to step in for him. Because shortly after he resigned, you saw that Stackhouse and Terry Stotts were let go. They weren't well, not let go. They weren't renewed, right? So they're going. There's been a lot of conversation about bringing Iguodala in,
Yes.
about bringing Willie Green in. I want to see if those things happen, because I have a feeling that part of Steve's job these next couple of years will be mentoring someone to replace him, and that mentor may come in the form of an assistant coach this year.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the one thing that article said, it didn't talk about this, mentoring a coach, but what you just brought up made me think about something that I read from that article that was really interesting. Is that it touched upon a conversation that Steve Kerr had with Lacob, and Lacob said that when you first came here, you constructed an offense to feature Curry and enhance his abilities, and that's what you did. You created this orchestra of 300 passes minimum, but you need a roster to be able to accomplish that right now, and the roster's different now. So he essentially emboldened Steve Kerr to tap into that creativity again, like you did when you first arrived, and try and find that magic that you did to come up with some kind of an offense that enhances the strengths of the personnel that you have on the team today. That was an interesting thing. And then Mike Dunleavy, when he had his conference, he talked about the thing is being the turnovers was the main issue. So I think they're going to really try and harp on the turnovers, and I don't know how they're going to fix that, because I think he'd been trying to fix it the whole time, but whatever it was falling on deaf ears. To Draymond Green, he was actually, they talked a lot about the relationship between Draymond Green and Steve Kerr, how they're very similar to each other. And I think that's part of the reason why Steve Kerr sees a little bit of himself in Draymond Green, and also talked about Steve Kerr kind of like having this, introspective kind of thinking process. He's reading books that kind of, deals with a lot of his demons from his past, with his father passing away and getting shot and murdered. That was a big thing for him. And I think he tapped into this book about about a tennis book that he reads, and he's read it multiple times. And it talks about two different personalities that everybody has, and they're always in battle with each other. And I think he sees that in Draymond Green, because he sees it in himself, meaning Steve Kerr, that he sees a lot of similarities in the way Draymond Green's it. So he's trying to kind of help him get over that, because he's found a way to get over his demons in this journey of being a coach. He's found a way to be better. He bettered himself throughout this process. He tapped into this other book that he read from somebody else that kind of helped him kind of write, notes about, some of the demons that he's dealing with, some of the things that angers him, and all these things that kind of help him kind of deal with the inner demons that he has. And he's trying to kind of pass that knowledge to Draymond Green, which in my opinion, I think illustrates why they're being so tolerant with Draymond Green, because I think they think that Steve Kerr can help this guy. But unfortunately, in trying to help this guy, there's been issues in team culture, team chemistry, and just perception by the overall league on the front office of how they're just enabling. They're creating this monster in Draymond Green because of all the enabling that they've had over these. But that article touched upon that, which was really interesting. I just wanted to bring that up as something that you were
No. It is an interesting article. I read pieces of it. interestingly enough, my interpretation of the Mike Dunleavy, Steve Kerr press conference, I took two things away. One was the turnovers got to stop. But
Yes.
my interpretation of that, Eddie, was that Draymond's presence on the Warriors is in jeopardy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't think they intend to fix him. I think they intend to trade him for someone that's going to respect the ball more. That's the way. The other thing that I took out of that press conference is I think that the Warriors are finally realizing that they got a bunch of old dudes, and this isn't going to work with a bunch of old dudes. It's just not. And
Yeah.
so this is going to be really interesting. What happens with Horford and Porzingis, right? What happens there? Well, Horford's got an opt-in, a player option, so I believe he has to opt in. So it's up to him. What happens to Butler when he's coming back? He's older. Steph Curry's he's a mainstay. He's not going anywhere. What happens with Draymond? And kind of leading into your next question, I think the Warriors are really going to look at that 11th pick and see what they can get with that 11th pick and what kind of player. Because back to hearkening, one of the reasons that Curry was able to imagine and visualize an offense is because he had a player of the caliber that he could build around.
Yes.
And he doesn't have that right now. Not that he can't build around Curry, but that young, youthful Curry isn't the Curry we have.
It's not there anymore.
And so who do you build around? You need that piece. And so is that piece in the draft? Is that piece from a trade? Is that where's that piece coming from? And so that's got to be the piece that you build around, which I think is the big conflict around Kuminga, because I think that the fan base felt that Kuminga could be that piece, but I think that the Warriors that analyzed the game, I'm talking about Shakeup, I'm talking about the scouts, I'm talking about the coaching staff, they knew that Kuminga was not that guy. And so that was the conflict. He's good enough to be in the rotation, but I think the organization
he's not the centerpiece.
The organization was pushing for him to be the centerpiece.
Yes.
He's not the centerpiece. This isn't going to work out.
Yes.
And so this is going to be a really fascinating offseason. I think that, in my opinion, the Warriors and the Lakers are going to have the most fascinating off seasons, because there's a lot that can change for both teams in this offseason, because there's a lot of movement. And, I, for one, am not a fan of bringing LeBron over. I'm not a fan of bringing Giannis over. And, and you were mentioning, the Spurs and the Thunder. I think that if I could grab every old geezer, put them on a team, they still couldn't beat those teams.
Yeah, I agree.
If I built a team with Embiid and Giannis and Curry and Joker and whoever, I don't think they beat them. Those teams are young. They move. They play defense. They're just solid teams. So why try to build it with the Warriors? Let's start how we did it the first time. We became the organization we did because we drafted Steph Curry, we drafted Klay Thompson, and we drafted Draymond Green. Go back to the draft and find you some guys. And it's hard to do, easy to say, hard to do, but you have the benefit of having Curry as a cushion for whoever you bring in and teaching them, and also taking the pressure off of them so that they don't have to be the guy right away, but they can grow into being that position.
I agree with you, bro. So let me ask you this. So what do the Warriors do with the 11th pick? Do you think that they're going to go ahead and try and trade up, stay with that pick, or trade that pick to get a free agent? Somebody that, because, I think they realize that they can't win with the roster construction that they had in trying to, keep, a good core of players to help Curry get another title. I think Curry's given the organization permission to not worry about titles anymore. Let's build up again, and I will help get to that point. And we just need to get competitive again, right? So now, knowing that, are they going to try and trade that pick to move up? Well, or are they going to try to go ahead and get a free agent? What's your thought on that? Or do they just keep the draft pick and stay at 11?
I think there's only one player that a franchise player, right? And that's what's his name? I keep forgetting his name. The kid from BYU.
Debonsa, AJ Debonsa.
AJ Debonsa. Thank you. I think he's the only one that really has the potential. And then when you get beyond him, you're really looking at different skill sets, positions, different needs. So unless the Warriors can trade for that number one pick, I don't know if it's worth their effort trying to get much higher than the 11th spot.
So you're saying just stay at where they're at, and hope
to me, I would stay where I'm at and determine the best player. Like there's obviously I made a lot of comments around the forward there from Michigan, Luxembourg or whatever. I keep forgetting.
Oh yeah, Yaxel.
Yaxel.
Yeah,
I think he's a solid
Lindenberg.
player, but I don't think he's a franchise player. I don't think he's the head of a franchise. I don't.
Yes.
So if you draft him, now you're building some youth, and maybe that's the start. I've heard a lot about this kid, the Mexican kid, Kareem Lopez, that was playing in a league overseas.
Yes.
He has a lot of potential. Maybe he's the guy that they're looking at and potentially bring him on board, and maybe he has the skill set to be something more. I don't know. So at this point, I still have to do some analysis, but those are the two names that I've heard the most. Mara, obviously from Michigan as well.
Yes.
He's a tall, that's a rebounder. He's gotten significantly better from year 1 to year 2 in his career. So I think that's someone else that you could possibly look at that slot. For me, if the Warriors are paying attention, they're noticing that right now the league is starting with getting a flexible and agile and versatile big.
Yes.
So to me, that's really where you need to start looking. Kareem Lopez, I think, is 6'9", 6'10".
6'9".
Yeah. What's his name from Michigan, the center? He's like 7'2". Mara.
Yeah, Mara.
Yeah, but he's not as fluid as some of the big men that are currently in the NBA. He's still a little more robotic than them. So it's just a matter of figuring it out. To me, I don't think that even if you got to the 2, you're not going to get a game changer. Someone that's going to be the face of your franchise. That's how I feel. So stay at the 11, pick the best player that fits at that need, and then build from there.
So, man, would you? Okay, so the guys that are kind of, you've already mentioned these guys. So
Yep.
I did another an AI. I asked AI today about who are the projected top 14 picks, and right now they have the Wizards taking DeBonsa, then they have the Jazz taking Darren Peterson, then they have the Grizzlies taking Boozer at number 3, then they have the Bulls taking Caleb Wilson at number 4, the Clippers taking Keaton Wagler, and then the Nets taking Darius Acup at number 6. Okay. Then the Kings get Kingston Flemings, Kingston, right? Anyway, and then you have the Hawks taking Mikael Brown, Mavericks at number 9 taking Braden Burries, and then the Bucks at number 10 taking Nate Ahmet. And then right now, from 11 through 14, this is where the Warriors, the next pick, they have Ade Mata as the guy that they predict that the Warriors would take. Yaxel Lindenberg would be taken right after that by the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
And Baron Talon and then Koa Pete being the 14th pick by the Hornets. So out of all those guys, you mentioned Ade and you Mata, and you've also mentioned Yaxel Lindenberg. If both of those players were available, who would you take?
I think Mara is the bigger gamble and the bigger payoff.
Yeah.
I think Yaxel is the more sure thing, but a lower ceiling. So depending on who else I feel that I can get, because here's the problem. The problem is, what are they going to do with Quentin Post? Right? That's number one. What are they going to do with Kristaps Porzingis? What are they going to do with Al Horford? Do they intend to keep all these 3 guys? Do they, if they intend to release all of them, then I'm getting Mara. If they're intending to keep 2 of the 3, then maybe I go with Yaxel. That's the way that I would look at it, but it depends on the construction of the team that you're doing. As a player, I think that Yaxel is the better player ready now and potentially could be the best player down the road. But Mara has the ability to be much better than Yaxel because he's bigger. He's got a better shot than Yaxel does from the 3-point line. And he fits into the model of the players like, Mobley,
Wembanyama, and Chuck Holmgren.
Like Chuck Holmgren. Yeah, he fits into that model. So if you're trying to get one of your own, you would do that, but he's not them, right? He's not
them,
guys.
But has the potential to be close to them or closer to them.
Correct. So if you get him as that piece, then you got to get better at the other pieces in order to build a better team, right? Because he's not going to be your centerpiece. So it just depends on what they're going to do. To me, we're always starving for bigs. I did my Lilliputian comment a couple of shows back, which you enjoyed. We can't do that. And every time I do a fantasy draft or a mock draft, when I see the Warriors taking a guard, I'm like biting my tongue. I'm like, just don't do that, man. Like,
they're not going to do it.
No, they better not. They better not. We need size. We need size. Yes. We need versatility. We need rebounding. We just need it. And so So to me, that would be my answer. If they're going to get rid of the current bigs to try to get some other piece, then go with Mara. If they're going to keep some of those bigs, then go with Yaxel.
It's a good breakdown. I tend to believe, and this is maybe wishful thinking on mine, and I brought it up in previous podcasts. I think the Warriors are going to try and trade up. I think they're going to try and haggle with the Wizards to get that number 1 pick, and they have draft picks galore. You know, at least 4 right now that they can dangle, but 4's a lot to get that number 1 pick. But they can dangle some other guys on their roster. You know, namely like, hey, you have Anthony Davis, you have Trae Young. Hey, Draymond Green would be a great facilitator for that team. Oh, we'll throw in Brandon Pajemski. Oh, we'll throw in, you know, a pick, you know, from next year, you know, and then we'll give the 11th pick for this year to get all that for AJ Devonta. I think they're going to try and trade up to go after Devonta. That's my thinking. But if they were not to do anything and stay put, I think they're going to take Mata. That would be my thought. But I think your breakdown makes sense. It really comes down to roster construction. What happens with Horford? What happens with Quentin Post? You know, what happens with Porzingis? You know, if all those guys are not in play anymore, then you draft Mata. But if 2 of those 3 are still there, then you draft Luxembourg, right?
Or possibly Kareem Lopez, if that's the direction.
Or Kareem Lopez, right?
Which is a little bit. He's a better 3-point shooter than Yaxel is. But not as beefy, right? Not as good a rebounder, not as good an inside kind of player. So.
Yes, and that not as good as a block. But you know, Devonta's 6'9" too. He's a 6'9" player. So
no. If we can get Devonta, then if you trade for number 1, I'd be a little weary of giving up 4, but I'd give
not give up 4. But you give up like a Draymond Green and freaking, you know, like I said, some of these other ancillary players along with the 11th pick, along with the future 1.
Yeah. If they're willing to do that, I'm down.
Yeah,
I'm down to do that because I think he has.
Yeah,
he has the potential.
Because you know, if you look at the Wizards, you know, their roster construction consists of 2 veterans in Trae Young and Anthony Davis. That tells the league that they're trying to be competitive. They already have Alex Sarr. He's a good power forward. You know, they can bring in like a Draymond Green to kind of come off the bench to help, you know, spell Alex Sarr when he needs the rest. You have, you know, other guys that, you know, they can get the 11th pick. They can go ahead and draft Mata or Luxembourg, whatever his name is, for Yaxel from Michigan. Any of those 2 Michigan guys would be the guys that they can dangle to them. So they can negotiate this, knowing that the Wizards, they're in rebuild right now, but they actually have 2 really good players, at least that have been good players in the past, and they can dangle other talent to get them even closer to where they want to go. And I think that's why they have some chips on the table to be able to bargain with the Wizards in order to make them enticing enough to them to deal the number 1 pick to the Warriors.
No, I hope you're right. If it takes a 1, this year's 11, and Draymond and Pods, just as an example, I'm in. Yeah, I'm really happy with that. Yeah. So,
Or they have Porzingis they can throw too, right?
Yep.
So that's the other thing. Porzingis, whoever. They have these other guys.
Yeah,
so,
if you want to give Porzingis and Pods, Porzingis and Moody, something like
11th pick and then future 1 for the number 1 pick.
Yeah. Hey, you got me excited. Sold. Where do I sign up?
It's possible, man. I mean, why not? I mean, this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to rebuild around, you know, come up with a new foundational piece. This is the time to do it. This draft is deep, but it's, in my opinion, it's top heavy with the difference maker, in my opinion, in that draft.
I agree. And I like your thinking around Washington has size. They don't need more size. To some degree, he's a duplicate player. Maybe he's better than the current players they have, but he is a duplicate player of what they have.
Yes.
So why not trade it? I agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, just my thoughts, man.
No. That's exciting.
Hey, you never know, man. Let's see. Hey, you know, and if it happens, you heard it here first on Buzzer Beaters. So anyway, man, we went ahead and did a walk around the NBA playoffs. We talked about all the series that led up to the current conference finals. The current conference finals, we are in for a treat because I think both these matchups are really, really good. They're both equally, you know, both teams are equal to each other. But, you know, when it comes down to the finals, I think the West is overwhelmingly better than the East. But we're in for some exciting basketball to watch. We're going to go ahead and be here next week to talk about the playoffs. We're not going to talk about the Warriors talk. That's done for right now. But today we talked about the Warriors talk because we wanted to talk about Steve Kerr being re-signed. We talked a little bit about the article that was read that was written about Steve Kerr. It's like 14 pages long. It takes an hour to read, man. And then we talk about what the Warriors should do with their pick. I think that they're going to trade up. Toine thinks that it's possible if they don't, trade, if they keep
Yeah.
the 11th pick and get either Mata or Lindenborg, whoever, one of the two Michigan guys. That's what we think. So, but anyway, we appreciate you listening to us. I'm Eddie Aparicio. This is Anthony Toine Corral. We're also known as the Cisco Kids, and we're brought to you by gremlingsmedia.com. You can find us there as well as wherever you find your podcasts. Anyway, we'll be here next week, everyone, and have a good week. And until then, take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey everybody, this is William Del Pilar, founder of Grumblings Media, and I want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our all-volunteer efforts at Grumblings Media, smash the subscribe button right here. 100% free, and please consume and share our great content. Click either one of these two boxes for more of our work.